So the mind-body organism needs, like I said, it needs to be restrained. But who is going to restrain it? Awakening brings you to the realization that, in fact, there is no I, no me. It was a whole story of language and words that created a fake me, not a real me, a conceptual I that was never there in the first place. It was just created by language. It's part of the mind-body organism in terms of thoughts and ideas about me and the corresponding feelings. So when that is realized, and that is what awakening is about, that the me was a story, which creates amazing changes, of course, then you can say, well, there is no one here. And if there is no one here, which is a pointer that we hear quite often, right? If there is no one here, then who is going to restrain the mind-body organism? And on the other hand, this has been, I would say, used as an excuse by quite renowned teachers to do things that are less than ideal, right? That seem to be very unconscious, in fact. And say, so sorry, there's total unconcern here for what happened, but in reality, there's no one here to be concerned about it, right?
That makes sense to me.
Sorry?
That makes sense to me.
That makes sense to you?
Absolutely. There's no one here.
Right, there's no one here.
So who's to be concerned about the mind-body organism? It
Right.
isn't real.
Right, okay. See, but still, if the mind-body organism, because what Diane is saying, it doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to me, Diane is saying, because there's no one here, so who is going to be concerned about the mind-body organism? Right. And the problem remains that if the mind-body organism does stupid things, it will have enough, those stupid things can bring enough problems and emotional upheavals to bring you back into identification. Do you see that? So that is the problem. If we were completely above everything, so that after, I don't know, some type of a extraordinary awakening where you are like Ramana Maharshi into a total obliviousness of the whole thing and you never experience any identification, okay, but it's not the case. Because we all know that awakening comes, and for the most part, to most individuals, they realize that there is no one there, but still identification happens. Moments of identification do happen, and especially under the effect of a high emotional problem, an emotional problem that is loaded, or an extremely painful sensation. An experience that really challenges your very survival, not your very survival, but the very survival of the mind-body organism. Like Nisargadatta, for example, he was so up there, and when his doctor told him that he had cancer, Nisargadatta confessed that he had a moment of identification and fear. And when Christ is in the Mount of Olives, he says, "Father, take this cup away from my lips, if it's possible." That means that he's recognizing that what is coming is so painful that may bring him into identification, and he wants that thing, if it's possible, not to happen. But his wish was not granted, right? For the benefit of everyone. That's the story, right? So we are not completely free from identification until you are totally, absolutely free of identification. I would highly recommend that you keep an eye on what this organism, this mind-body organism, is doing. Now, who is going to keep an eye? That's the interesting question again, because there is no one here, right? So who's going to keep the eye on that?
Whoever's
right? The question, the paradox still is there. So let's try to solve, to give an answer that may be satisfying for the intellect. the There seems to be something that could be called, you can call it in any way you want, okay? But it has to be lived in order to, or experienced in order to identify what it is. So I'm just inventing a word that may come close or not, but I would call it abiding. Abiding. What abiding is, or seems to be, is like, picture when you have a coat, right? And you grab the coat and you put it and you keep it tight to your body, and it's like now the coat and you are the same. Yeah, that would be like abiding in the coat. Well, the identification with, now not with a thing but with consciousness itself, can have that quality, in the sense that when there is this strong identification, not with something else, but with just consciousness, there is a sense of abiding there. And there is a sense that consciousness, in a way, because it has no limitations, is also personal. And I'm not saying that it's your persona, not the persona that you invented, right? That we invented when we were 3 years old, or our parents invented for us. But consciousness is very much alive and capable of, by itself, controlling this mind-body organism and not allowing it to do whatever it wants. So we could say that after awakening especially, the controlling that thing called the mind-body organism and setting limits to it is a good idea, no doubt, so that we don't go back into identification, and is done by consciousness itself. Nobody's doing it. But you as consciousness, you're doing it. So you set limits to the organism. The organism is highly programmed. It's like a supercomputer, highly programmed, and the programs are less than ideal. There are programs there that are problematic. And even you as consciousness, I guarantee you that you have created as consciousness, we all have created as consciousness, a mind-body organism that is enough challenging for you to, and it will not be easy to control it. If you think that you have complete power of the mind organism because you are consciousness, yes, it's true. But in an ultimate analysis, the match is very tight. Yeah? And you will have to make an effort to control. It is true that from the identity as consciousness, or the identification with consciousness itself in that abiding, there is much more power to control the mind-body organism than from the false me that never existed, of course. But still that work needs to be done. When this identification with the mind-body organism and with all its sensations and feelings and emotions and so on has become so solidified that you are beyond everything, then give up all control. In the meantime, I highly recommend that you use common sense. I have seen people that wake up, and they have serious problems in the mind-body organism. Alcohol problems, sexual problems. Eating disorder problems. And if you wake up and you say, well, there is now nobody here, the mind-body organism can go rampant into all these addictions to begin with, and many more other things.